Meeting to order, the Board of Education. Welcome, everybody. Our first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is Spotlight on Silvermine Elementary School Poetry Slam. Ms. Keys.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lyons. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Spotlight portion of our agenda for Tuesday, June 17th, 2014. Tonight, we will be honoring Silvermine Elementary Poetry Slam. Tonight, the Norwalk Board of Education recognizes students and staff from Silvermine Elementary School for the school's annual Poetry Slam competition. Silvermine's Poetry Slam was started 3 years ago by teacher Jill Picasso. Each year, Silvermine 4th and 5th grade students are invited to write poems and submit them to their teachers. 2 poems are then selected from each class. The students then read their poems to an assembly of grade 3 students and a panel of student judges who determine the winners based on certain criteria. The winners are announced at the final Spirit Rally of the year, where they read their own poems to the entire school. Over the years, the Silvermine community has heard poems with deep and intense meaning, poems with great humor and everything in between. Teachers have uncovered some true hidden talents through the Poetry Slam. We're going to hear the poems tonight from this year's winners, and more can be found on Silvermine's webpage under Silvermine Students News. The Board of Education would like to recognize Principal Yvette Ellis for her commitment to the Poetry Slam and teacher Jill Picasso for her work in creating and organizing this annual student showcase. We also congratulate the 3 Silvermine poets here with us tonight, students Sal Avengra, Carolina Tanizev, and Nia Betha Brescia, and invite them to come up front to read their poems to us. Now, Yvette, if you can introduce each student and have them come up and read each poem. Thank you.
That's true. Our school is a dual language, so we also have a focus on students learning second languages for English speakers Spanish and Spanish speakers English, hoping that they'll come up bilingual. I give you that preface because one of the poets wrote their poem in Spanish. And his sister is here tonight with him to translate it so that everybody understands the message. But it's been a great expression for our boys and girls. But it's because of putting it into a competition, we have found some hidden talents in our boys and girls, and a mode of expression for them that's been very impressive and really taken by the poetry that they've come up with. So it's my great pleasure to share this with you. If Carolina Tennessee would come forward and read your poem.
You want to give her a mic? If you go right over there at the podium, you can read it and get the microphone, and we'll record it and save it for posterity. I should get that out of there. That's it. Okay. There we go. All right.
You are a special person. You are you. Be yourself. Let your soul be free. You are a powerful warrior, so fight for your freedom. No one can hurt you, so be like a bird and soar to your paradise. Being happy is the key. Some people may say mean things about you, but don't listen, because you are an angel. You are a dancer who moves with their heart. You are you, and that's everything good combined. So just remember that you have a warm heart that is wonderful, generous, fantastic, and lovable. You are a special person. Don't change that.
Ugly. What is it really? What is the definition of ugly? Does it mean you don't like the way your face looks? Is it just something they call you before they drown you in hate? before they shoot you down with words filled with disgust. How do you describe ugly? What is an example? Is it you? Well, I beg to differ. They said you were ugly because of your face, your name, some messed up part of you. They were wrong. They said you were ugly because you made a mistake. No, mistakes are beautiful. Mistakes are like budded flowers, full of beauty and slowly growing. They were wrong. If anyone is ugly, it's the people who choose to spit that word out whenever they can. If you call yourself ugly, I'm sorry, I have to correct you. It's pronounced beautiful.
And so, Linda is going to read this poem in Spanish, and then Sister Jennifer will translate.
La hermosa rosa. La rosa hermosa es azul, porque son de Raúl, y le da las flores al bonito Saúl. La rosa es suave como el aire del pelo de mi madre. La rosa hermosa es como la estrella del cielo, porque es más bella que las otras rosas en el jardín. La rosa hermosa es amorosa, es preciosa y amorosa. La rosa hermosa es graciosa y también cariñosa. Me la quisieron comprar, pero yo no la vendo porque es fabulosa. Esta rosa hermosa la he cuidado como ella a mí. La cuido con mucha pasión porque viene del fondo de mi corazón. Y a ella la canto esta canción, se la dedico a la más grandiosa rosa, a mi maestra con toda dedicación.
I'm going to read it in English. The beautiful rose is blue because it is from Raúl. Raúl gives the beautiful flowers to Saúl. The rose is soft like the air, just like my mother's hair. The rose is beautiful like a star in the sky because it is the most beautiful from the garden. The beautiful rose is wonderful and precious. The beautiful rose is funny and caring. They wanted to buy my rose, but I didn't want to sell it because it is fabulous. I have cared for this rose like it has cared for me. I have cared for it with passion because it comes from my heart. And to this rose I sing this song. I dedicate this to the greatest rose of all, my wonderful teacher.
We want to thank all of you for coming tonight. Those were actually really beautiful poems. If you can come up, I'm going to call Carolina, Mia, and Saul up, and we have certificates of recognition for them.
We'll all shake your hands.
Yep.
Right over here.
Shake her hand. We don't
There you go.
Beautiful poem. That was very beautiful.
Always one.
Very nice.
Thank you so much for your Thank you again, and thank you to the parents, teachers, and staff for coming tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Next item on the agenda is going to be public comments, and Mr. Kasimis will run that. He's retrieving the sign-up list.
Good evening, everyone. Public comments section. When I call your name, could you please come up to the podium, give us your name and your address for the record. You will have 3 minutes. Please keep your comments civil. When you have 30 seconds left, I'll give you a high sign, and at 3 minutes, my alarm will go off, and we ask that you close. See, we have Mr. John Mosby up.
Good afternoon, board. My name is John Bolt. I live at 15 Anderson Avenue. I'm gonna be very brief here tonight, is that I would like to clear up a few things concerning the minutes. There's certain time I've mentioned as to correct the minutes. And when I spoke at the last meeting, I did not say Norwalk that the custodian union asked me to speak. The union didn't ask me, and in the Norwalk hour, the gentleman really did a good a story of what I said. What I said was that the custodians, some of them, asked me would I just come up, not the union, and asked me to speak on their behalf. And I'm gonna stand on what I say. A lot of custodians are scared to death. I talked with some principals. They're scared to come out. I'm still gonna go on the record that privatizing this custodian in these two schools, Columbus and Jefferson, I'm still opposed to it because you ain't privatizing other schools. And them schools are in the black community. I also been talking about Bridge for over 1 year, about the way y'all treated Bridge. You promised them 200 or 300 kids, now you have 30 kids. I want to let you know that it's not fair what you all doing. And you can look at me all you want, but I'm telling the truth. Some of these principals don't understand. When you privatize, you don't know who go in them schools at night. And if they put a bum up under there, you don't know him blow up 500 or 600 kids, somebody gonna answer. You worried about $20. I worked in the school system for 30 years. We had good security. You know who Mr. Mosby is. You know who the head custodian. And some of the principals told me they're scared to death. Down here told them to be quiet. Well, I hope and pray that they get up, because if something happens with them little kids, you're gonna be responsible. Another thing I say real quick about Neon. I did not say Neon. I say that the workers down, 100 workers asked me to speak on their behalf. And the reason why they asked me, I was still elected representative. Because I hope break up all that corruption down there. And I say this for the record. The Board of Education back there in the days in Neon was involved with Head Start and things. They wasn't part of that corruption. That's what I say. It wasn't just say Neon. So I want to get the record straight. And I'm going to keep on fighting. Also, I know you have treated me very dirty, Rendersburg. And I done filed a lawsuit against you. The way y'all treat me. When everybody else come up here and ask you something, you do something for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mosby. Okay, that is all we have for public comments, Mr. Chairman.
All righty, we will proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. Rivera.
I have no report tonight.
That's good. Keep things moving. All right, next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Chair would entertain a motion to approve items 6.2A, approval of personnel, 6.2B, approval of budget transfers, 2C1, 2C2, and 2C3, which are field trips by Jefferson School, and 2 for the Center for Global Studies. Is there such a motion? Ms. Keyes moves, Mr. Chiramonte seconds. Is there discussion?
Go ahead. Okay. No, I was going
Ms.
to.
Mosby.
Yes, I was going to ask to see if we can move item number 6.3 to approval of policy 9130.1.
That's not on the consent calendar.
Oh, okay.
Consent would just be the items under 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Mr. Kucinich.
Can we pull out C2C3 just so we can talk about
Center
it?
for Global Studies to Tajikistan.
Yes, please.
All right, that's pulled out, and we'll discuss that separately. Anything else? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of adopting the consent calendar, please indicate. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, 2A and B, C, 1 and 2. Okay, next.
I know we discussed and voted already. I just wanted to point something out that might have been missed. On this Jefferson trip to Nature's Classroom, I remember there was an issue a little while ago about approving one, and then there was this one campus of Nature's Classroom that was in trouble. And if I remember correctly, that place was in Massachusetts, and this place is in Massachusetts. Is that an issue? I just thought I'd bring it up.
I didn't think so, because in the description, there was only the one program there, the Underground Railroad.
Okay.
And they're not doing the Underground Railroad.
Okay.
That was the one that there was an allegation about. They're not doing it. Okay, so next item is Center for Global Studies trip to Dushanbe, Tajikistan, August 9, 16, 2014. To get this under discussion, Chair would entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Kasimis moves, Ms. Keys seconds. Discussion, Mr. Kasimis.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I know it borders a lot of the countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, and just curious if there's any threat to our kids, or if we could just talk about it.
Roz is here, Center for Global Studies.
Oh, that's what it was, I'm sorry. Yes, I actually got on the State Department website. It is not listed on the site as one of the places that the State Department says don't travel. They don't have a warning alert on it. They point out that the border region around Afghanistan is very dangerous for obvious reasons. But the capital city, which appears to be where they're going to be most of the time, has the usual, pickpocketing problems that you'll find in Paris or London. But in reading the State Department report, I concluded that it's probably not any more dangerous than any other, foreign country, as long as you are in that area, which is 150 miles away from the border with Afghanistan. Is it safe to assume you're not going to be visiting the border?
It's pretty safe in the sense that I would point out that this whole thing is paid for and sponsored by the State Department.
Okay. Really?
United States State Department.
Really? That's interesting.
Well, I did, if you go on the State Department website, it'll tell you, warnings. I mean, there's two levels. One is basically don't travel or you're crazy, and the other is be very careful. And I was actually a little surprised given its proximity to Pakistan, Afghanistan, but it's not on the warning list.
Okay.
So,
None of the parents have any concerns? Have you heard of? No? Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Keep them in Dushanbe.
Okay.
Which, by the way, I looked it up on the internet. It's still everything there is still written in Russian
Yeah.
from when the Russians occupied them.
Okay.
All right, so any other discussion or questions? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving this trip, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, next item is 6.3, approval of policy 9130.1, bylaws, board committees. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the bylaws amendment as included in the packet. Is there a motion? Okay, Ms. Rivas moves. Is there a second? Ms. Keys, all right. Any discussion? Ms. Mosby?
First, I would like to say that I see that you've taken out the diversity hiring committee, language, and that's good. And I just want to make sure that we are aware that that is it's a standalone committee, and that in the end, it ends up reporting to the full board. And I just want to make sure that that understanding is still there.
Yeah, we definitely need to figure out where that committee stands and have it look into changes with the policy and stuff.
Well, yeah.
And report back to us.
Yeah, because as I guess you might be aware of that, it has been worked on since, all those years recently. And the plan is updated and just probably need to move forward.
Yeah, Mr. Morris reported that there was a draft proposed amendment, but it's never been brought to the board, so we need to bring that forward and act on it. Any other discussion? I'm sorry, Ms. Rivas.
Yes, I have a concern with number 4, negotiations and personnel committee. I'm in agreement with the first paragraph, the first bullet, but the other two, I don't believe that it should be the responsibility of that committee. I have always felt that it should not be negotiations/personnel committee, because it should be the negotiations committee. And once contracts and the decisions to go forward with the negotiations, that I see it goes to the full board. I'm concerned with the third bullet, to review and approve evaluation procedures for employee groups. That's to review, approve evaluation. Again, that should be the full board, and the board as a whole is the personnel committee. So it should not be separate into defining negotiations and personnel committee when the board it states it in the city charter, as well as in a lot of sections of the bylaws of the Board of Education. I'm also concerned with the second bullet to review and make recommendations concerning personnel policies for all employees of the board. Again, it should not be that one committee. I don't see why it should be two separate. I think it's two separate entities. And like I said, it's the responsibility of the board to, as far as all employees of the Board of Education go with. And I think that the negotiations committee has a lot of work to do as it is, with all the contract negotiations and all the issues that come up. So I believe it should be just one, that first paragraph in the policy. And I just want to, that's the only thing that was read to me that I recall. Again, it's hard, I am on the negotiations committee, and the thing is, I haven't been, I cannot, I do want to participate in it, and I just need, I spoke with the superintendent and let him know that I'm temporarily disabled visually. I have visual impairment, and I need a lot of audio, and I can't see what happens on emails back and forth. And I think that, this should be, of concern as well. So I have the concern with what I just said, with the negotiations and personnel committee.
Okay. Ms. Mosby?
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe a solution, because that's what we're here to try to find some solutions to, issues as well, is probably to separate the two, negotiation, and then put personnel separate. And that way, it, the board as a whole is personnel. Then if you wanted to sit there and define some, these last two bullets could go under that. So instead of like number 4, it could be number 5 and we move everything down, or it could be 7. But that way it's separate, and the negotiation, the language there can stay with negotiation. Personnel committee, the language there, if people are happy with that, can stay with personnel committee, and that's why it's 2 separate committees. Because myself, I'm not comfortable giving up that, because I that type of authority in a sense, because although the board as a whole is personnel, I'm not comfortable giving that to a committee that has just 3 people on it. And especially when we're dealing with everything with hiring, with the personnel area. So that could be a solution that could be thought about, and just separate, the two, put it to negotiation and put the other, and then another personnel committee.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Ms. Rivas?
No, in another section, it's a different area of the policy. On the policy committee, the last bullet that has to do with monitoring the implementation of the adopted policy, I believe that that's the superintendent that, as the board approves policies and updates policies, the implementation and the monitoring of if the policies are being followed is the responsibility of the superintendent, not of the policy committee. And also, it should have there, I don't know if it contains this in the policy committee area, that we have a lot of old policies, some of them in the 80s, 1980s, 1987, 88, because prior to this, I was on the policy committee in 2006, and there's a lot of, I think that there has to be a review of not only of what was recently updated, but there should be some way as to update the entire policies and take them section by section like the administration section, do that, and then try to see what policies actually need to be updated. It's a big task. And I understand that before we had, when the money allowed, we had a line item in the budget where we use the services of CABE and policy professionals that help. They assist school districts in other areas in Connecticut, and they're aware of the state statutes and how that reflects with our policies that we want to put in place. And we should also ask for their input as well into that. So those are my concerns on the policy committee section.
Okay. Any other comments?
Just real quick, to Ms. Mosby's point, and I just want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly, on number 4, the Negotiations Personnel Committee, it says to review and make recommendations concerning personnel policies for all employees of the board. So basically, they can review and make recommendations, and those recommendations come to the board as a whole, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And also, it says to review and approve evaluation procedures. Now, that means they don't evaluate, they just approve the procedures, correct?
We shouldn't approve.
Well, the negotiation of personnel committee,
Yes.
correct? Yes.
Okay. And it's just the procedures?
Mhm.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I was reading it correctly and understand
Yes.
that none of this.
It's not approval of personnel.
Of personnel, correct.
It's
Okay.
personnel-related procedures and things.
Okay.
I should clarify one thing. People talk about the bylaws saying that the Board of Education is a committee as a whole in regarding personnel matters. Now, there's actually nothing in the policy book that says that. But what is in the policy book, Policy 9131, says, the Board of Education shall act as a committee of the whole in final consideration of all matters. So that policy means that these committees do not have independent authority from the board. So people have expressed concern about, they don't want to cede authority to the Personnel Committee. They're not ceding any authority to the Personnel Committee. Everything that the Personnel Committee approves, that the Curriculum Committee, the Finance Committee, Policy Committee, every committee approves, recommends, whatever, has to come to the board, and we have to act as a committee of the whole in final consideration of all matters. So I think those concerns are already addressed by Policy 9131. Regarding Ms. Rivas's concerns, the first 2 bullet points in the Policy Committee description of duties directly address your concern about periodic review of all the existing policies. The first bullet says, Policy Committee will review and, when needed, propose revisions to all board policies, regulations, and bylaws as needed to ensure consistency with the district mission statement, strategic plan, and best practices. The second bullet says, together with board counsel and other advisors, to review and, when needed, propose revisions to all board policies, regulations, and bylaws for compliance with state and federal laws. And interestingly, you note the assistance from CABE. Well, among the transfers that we just approved is our rejoining CABE. So we would have access to CABE. As you know, when the board went through the budget crisis a couple of years ago, we terminated our membership in CABE and a lot of other organizations to save money. In tonight's transfers, we've reestablished that relationship with CABE. We've paid our dues up. And so the Policy Committee would once again have access to the resources of CABE to help them with that kind of policy review. Ms. Rivas?
Yes, I understand what you have just said. Now, also, you just mentioned policies. Now, to review and make recommendations concerning personnel policies, then that should be on the policy committee. Because then if you're saying the policies are going through the policy committee, there should be no policy that the negotiation/personnel committee should be working with. And to be quite frank, I believe that the personnel committee section, if anything, it should be like a different policy for human resources, because human resources we have, welcome. I wasn't last time with the personnel director, human resources director. I believe that the personnel committee then should be designated or made the human resources committee that would see that would be whatever has to do with personnel issues. So, you know, instead of the negotiation piece. Because I think that, again, that the personnel committee and personnel matters are handled by human resources, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it should be redefined as human resources committee. Or instead of, because it's very confusing when you do have that personnel committee and you know, it's just not very clear to me. And my concerns with my questions is that I don't want like a committee to say, okay, so we are going to choose to not send this person forward or not, you know, so I don't want things to be
Well,
selected.
we have to be clear, this committee will not be reviewing candidates for positions. All this is policies and procedures. We deliberately left that out of that because people wanted to make sure that those either went through staff or straight to the board.
Okay, so policies and procedures also include regulations?
Yep.
Okay, so then that should be the responsibility of the policy committee. Do you follow what I'm trying to say, or you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Mosby?
You just said that there's nothing in the bylaws that states the board being the personnel. Under the bylaws of the board, under duties, 9000B, number 6, it says that the board duties is to employ the necessary personnel. So in a sense, that is saying that we are over the personnel in general.
Oh, we're over everything.
Right, so, but it is, but you just said that there wasn't anything, but there is something right here that states that.
No, I simply was clarifying that there's no provision that says the board will act as a committee of the whole for personnel. In fact, it's much broader than that. It says it would be a committee of the whole in final consideration of all matters. So that definitely includes personnel, but also includes policies, finance, curriculum, and everything else.
Well, that's what it says under duties, 9000B.
Yeah, that we would employ,
The necessary personnel prescribe their respective terms of office and duties and appraise the efficiency in terms of the value of their services to the community.
absolutely.
So that's there.
Yep. All right. Any other discussion?
Yes, sir. Will we be correcting this, or?
Well, you can make a motion to amend them if you want to. There's a motion to adopt it as written on the floor.
Yeah, you could do it. Remove that.
What you want to remove?
Legal. And to just, let
And
it stand alone.
And what else?
And, I don't know if we could do that, that's
Yeah.
two separate
There's
motions.
2 separate motions.
Okay, so then just this, and then make another motion for that?
You can make a multi-part motion if
Oh,
you
you
want, or
can.
you can split it up, whatever way you
Yeah.
want.
Oh, okay, okay, yes, okay.
Make a motion to separate negotiation and personnel committee and to remove to the last 2 bullets and place it under policy committee.
On personnel committee.
No, on
Or policy?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, the thing that says review policy.
All right, so the motion is to separate negotiations and personnel. That's the first part. The second part is to move the 2 bullets under negotiation, the second and third bullets under the policy committee.
Yes. Or should, is it better to do 2 separate, or? Well,
That's entirely up to you.
Okay, so,
Okay, that motion is made. Is there a second?
yes.
You can't second your own motion.
Oh, no, I she said.
All right, motion is moved and seconded. Is there discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All in favor of adopting the motion, please indicate. 1, 2, all opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Abstentions? 1 abstention. Okay, motion fails. Any other proposals or amendments?
Okay, I make another
All right,
motion. I would like to then remove the 2 and 3 bullets and place it under the policy committee. The review and make recommendations concerning personnel policies and.
we just voted on that.
No, there was that included splitting negotiations and personnel. I'm not saying to split the negotiations and personnel. I'm just simply asking to remove the 2 and 3 and put it on the policy committee as their responsibilities on that committee.
Okay. Is there a second? Discussion?
Can I ask what it is exactly, the motion? Just so I understand.
It's the same thing that was the second part of the first motion, to move the 2 bullets
Out.
the last 2 bullets from 4 to 5. All right, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? 2, all opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, abstentions? 1 abstention, motion fails. Any other discussion or motions? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote on the main motion to approve the bylaws as proposed. All in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, opposed? 3. All right, motion carries, 5 in favor, 3 against. All right, moving right along, item 7A, May 2014 Financial Monthly Report. Mr. Rudel.
Through the first 11 months, we have spent $138.2 million against an adjusted budget of $164.3. So we have spent 84% of the budget against a theoretical rate of 91.6%, well underneath our budget. There is 1 more month in the fiscal year, which is June. As in other months, that will be an extended close, where purchase orders will be cut off at the end of July, and then a week to week and a half period of accrual time to accrue expenses back into the current year, with expected unaudited financial statements done by early to mid-August.
Okay. Is the trending, obviously, we're trending under the flat percentage. Are there expenditures that we typically make sort of at the end of the year
There
that
are.
bring those numbers closer?
Yeah, so there are 2 main expenditures that happen at the end of the year. One is severance payments to retired teachers.
Okay.
That currently is within the budget. It's actually a few $100,000 under the budget currently. And then additionally, teachers have the right to elect 22 pays or 26 pays. So the teachers who elect to get 26 pays are paid in the summer. So their pays in July and August will be accrued back to the old fiscal year. Those pays represent about $7.8 million. So if we were to topside the $7.8 million on the $138.2 million, our spend rate would be about 90%, still under the 91% run.
Okay, good. Excellent. Any questions for Mr. Whittle? Okay.
Does he have a dollar amount in projected savings?
Not quite yet.
Not that good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Whittle. Good work, as always. All right, next item on the agenda, discussion of and possible action to approve the Whitson's Culinary Group 5-year contract. I guess I could call you right back. I know, from reading all the materials in the packet, that this whole process is completely dominated by the federal and state governments, and most of this stuff appears to be completely mandated, although we do get we get to choose, who we think is going to be a better service provider. So you're recommending that we stick with Whitson's. Give us the overview of how we got here and why you think that's advantageous.
The current year is the last year of a 5-year contract with Whitson's. So as mandated, we put an RFP out in the beginning of the year, in January. We had a 60-day RFP in which we had 2 bidders, Whitson's and one other one. Once we received the bids, we had a post-conference bid where the 2 companies were allowed to tour our schools, make assessments based on what they could propose. And then we had a committee formed, which included a variety of people, including people from food service, finances, health, so that we can have a nutrition aspect to it. And every member was asked to score essentially both bids and see where they thought was best. And reviewing the bids, we felt Whitson's actually did a better job in due diligence for the City of Norwalk school systems. Aramark, which was the competing bid, we felt did not do their due diligence based on historical trends of sales throughout the school systems food service company. So as a result, if we felt their sales were somewhat inflated. If they were projecting an 18% increase in sales for lunch, and over 20% increase in other sales, if those sales didn't materialize, Norwalk would be losing $160,000. So we felt that that was not a risk that we could take. When pushing forward against the competing bids company, as to how specifically they intended to materialize double-digit percentage increase. There was no real concrete proposal or plan to materialize those savings. So as more of a risk-adverse budget decision, we decided Whitson's was more appropriate to go forward. Being a system that operates relatively lean in budget season, we didn't feel a potential loss of $160,000 was worth going for.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the food service agreement with Whitson's. Mr. Chairmani moves. Is there a second? Mr. Barbas, any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please indicate. And it's unanimous. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rudel. Okay, next is discussion of and possible action to approve central office reorganization plan. To get this under discussion, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the requested board action and the final page of the memorandum in the packet, which is to adopt the Norwood Public Schools organizational and structural changes as proposed by the superintendent of schools for the 14-15 school year, and to authorize the superintendent to take actions necessary to implement the approved changes prior to August 15, 2014. Is there a motion to that effect?
Point of information.
Well, let's get the motion so we have it on the agenda, on the floor, and then we'll come right back.
But it's not an action item. How are we putting it there if it's under information and reports?
It says possible action.
It's possible action, but it says information and reports.
Yeah, I know that.
Discussion of and possible action. The possible action has not taken place. It's not under an action
We have
item.
adopted multiple items under the exact same language and the same
The
section of the agenda.
information and reports means there's a discussion, so an information, there's a presentation, like Mr. Riddle just did. So there
And
should be.
action means action.
Discussion and possible action, so then why wasn't it placed under the action items?
Because it might be brought back.
Discussion.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Barbas moves. Mr. Chairmani seconds. Before we go into the discussion, I'd like to ask Dr. Rivera to explain this comprehensive proposal to us, and then we'll have a discussion with the board.
First, if I could, there are a couple of points that I neglected to make at superintendent's report. I'd like to welcome Lee Palmer, who's actually here for his first board meeting. I neglected to mention that when I gave my report. Secondly, the organizational changes that I'm going to share with you, for the most part, are an outgrowth of our budget process. During the budget process, we actually made decisions and authorized certain amounts to revisit and potentially revamp our human resource department. We had talked about some of the frustrations and some of the concerns that had evolved over time that most board members had acknowledged and expressed, and we were going to set aside funding to come back to you at a later point with recommendations. Secondly, in the area of special education as well, we had talked about revisiting the roles, looking at the need to provide greater control to excessive costs associated with out-of-district placements. During the budget cycle, that became something that we were most concerned about, as well as improving our ability to make better decisions and to support instruction better in our schools. So special ed was also part of our discussion during the budget cycle. During the budget process, or shortly thereafter, I should say, you approved our 9-point literacy plan, which included a director for literacy. At the same time, I had been indicating to you that I was pursuing foundation funding to the tune of over $1 million to help us with positions so we can have a full-time curriculum and instruction site person. And I did receive a formal approval of that funding. No press release is going to be issued for another day. But I will have to indicate so tonight in terms of where that funding is coming from. But at any rate, we're pleased with some of that development, and along with it came some requirement for positions. So I'm going to share some of this, and I just wanted to put it in perspective. This is a follow-up for the most part to the budget cycle, and I want to thank Tony, Lee, Ralph, and Brenda, and others who worked with us on this, and the support from the different groups. So at least I can get the right arrow here. So the recommendations, I had sent to you on Friday a 6-page document. I'm just going to go through 5 or 6 slides to highlight those changes. And one recommendation is to advance a new structure for Human Resources Department. I'll talk about that. 2, a new structure for special ed. 3, to enhance district operations and management and our responsiveness. This year, Tony's had under his belt all of curriculum, the teacher evaluation system, the administrator evaluation system, administration, operations. We've been operating fairly thinly, and we really have not, and I will tell you very frankly, we have not spent the kind of time in schools that we should be. We have not spent the kind of time really out in the field providing support and guidance and what I think is a higher level of oversight with the work of our schools. We do not have standards in place, quality standards for our schools. If you were to ask principals about leadership standards, they'll say, what? I mean, the ones that I talked about 2 years ago? There's a lot of systems that we have to have in place, standards that we have to have in place, and we have to have the capacity to be able to go out and provide proper oversight. That is big. Just the volume of calls and emails and conflicts and concerns that come up through our respective offices is quite significant. So we've been talking about how we might better manage our time and how we can bring on some resources to help be more responsive as an organization and not only manage the system well, but also lead the system. We've focused on the changes that we need to make improvements. People are concerned about the culture of the system. People are concerned about our responsiveness. Well, to get that change, we have to make some changes, and that's what I'm proposing tonight. Third, and I've talked a little bit about this, academics. We often talk about the Common Core standards, which are learning standards. Well, at the same time, we want to make sure that all of our curriculum, we have quality curriculum standards in place, and we think that we could strengthen our oversight for the academic side of the house with all of the oversight for the instructional specialists and other related areas to program and academics by having a chief academic officer who could pay attention, thereby allowing myself and the deputy superintendent to provide more scrutiny, more enhancement for the sites. Improved customer service. Basically, I'll be recommending, and perhaps I believe at the next board meeting, reviewing more specifically some of the changes in roles, both for the communications director and enhancing responsibilities for that position to serve more in an executive assistant role, as well as our chief financial officer, who will also be taking on some business services. And then lastly, in order to get the funding, we had to make some expenditures to meet certain requirements that the funding source put on us. So number one, in the area of the human resource reorganization, our current structure was one HR director, one executive secretary, an assistant director, another secretary, way understaffed. We knew that going into this, but we not only looked at the fact that it was understaffed, but we also looked at roles, the roles of folks that we would need to really manage more effectively and efficiently. The need for systems. We have, because the city uses the Munis financial systems, we have not fully implemented the HR component of that. Fortunately, Lee has a significant background in technology. The consultant that we use to help do the analysis also pointed out very clearly some gaps that we have in that area that could really help automate some of our work, make us more responsive to our staff, and to manage some of the demand coming in. Benefits needs to be more in sync with HR, and so we made a decision to move the benefits coordinator from finance over to the HR unit. And then in this particular district, where we have a lot of employees and two big labor unions, a labor relations officer to provide enhanced support for me, who gets calls every day from our union leaders every day. In the area of special education, pupil personnel services, delineate clear lines of responsibility between units. This is some of the improvements that we're going to make. Implement new standards for our PPTs and IEPs. We need actually greater program consistency. We've talked about that. One of the big outcomes of our workout that we had, where we involved principals and teachers and some state special ed leaders, was that our special ed people need to be out supporting principals and supervising and evaluating our special ed teachers and other teachers. So we need to improve that instructional program as well. Our pre-K program, we were told, needed better coordination, and we have to really closely monitor out-of-district placements. I was, last Friday, a week ago Friday, I met with the superintendents from Bridgeport and Meriden, and they've taken steps. Similar to us, Meriden reduced the number of students in out-of-district placements by close to 140, 150, down to 68, saving millions of dollars. Similarly, Bridgeport has taken some steps to do the same, and that's basically where we want to be. We want to look at creating our own programs that can serve some of our own children without having to send them on buses that cost a fortune, and then you're paying another district $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 for tuition. So we have a plan to actually get that under control, and we think it can reach substantial savings over the next few years. There may well be some startup costs in the next budget associated with some of these new programs, but in the long term, we would more than recoup that. But you got to have people to do it. You've got to have resources who are paying attention to it. And then at the building level PPTs, we need to make sure we have assistance there. So what we've recommended is, obviously, you maintain your special ed director and assistant director who have very full plates, but from 3 administrators of special ed to 4 special ed instructional supervisors. They'll be able to provide, they'll each have their areas, their schools that they'll be responsible for, the PPTs that they're expected to go to, and we will look at making sure that one of those is focused on managing our out-of-district placements, and the other one is focused on the development of some of our new programs. This is, again, this can be further elaborated at our next board meeting, but in terms of the Chief Communications Officer, obviously, I think our communications has improved dramatically since the beginning of the year. Brenda's done a fine job in getting our new website up and running, getting communications out. We're now taking steps to send more regular bulletins internally to staff, to our administrators. There have been steps underway to be more proactive and produce materials that can be disseminated more appropriately and to different audiences. And so additional responsibilities essentially to work more closely with our administrative secretary, one secretary that handles both the board and the superintendent's office, and provide some assistance, executive assistance support to me in staying on top of the many issues that come in from different stakeholders, action items, and then drafting documents that we need. So that role would be expanded. Similarly, chief financial officer to chief business and finance officer, enhancing duties to support greater planning, and actually finances, special ed finances and Medicaid reimbursement, that shouldn't be in the special ed unit. Finances needs to be with finance. And that's where I think we can provide greater projections, greater oversight to this seemingly out of control expenditure, where, you know, we're constantly coming back with transfers, and it's just, it's an area that really needs, we think, financial oversight and attention. And there are other business services which Rich has actually been providing leadership to already. We've got a new, transportation would shift over from IT. I don't even know how it got over there, but transportation comes over on the business side, and facilities would continue to be part of that area of responsibility. The org chart that's here, it's hard to see, but in this particular organization, it basically reflects the chief academic officer, and in this upcoming year, in this transitional year, we continue to report to Mr. Dodona, and we'll look at transitioning that a year from now. But you can see the academics, the special ed, the ELL services, world language, under the deputy, school operations, line supervision principals, district and school administration, leadership development, adult ed, hearings, and then we're going to have to make sure we're, with the staff that we have, organizing them, because we did lose one of our principals on assignment who handled some work for us. So we're going to have to do some internal juggling with the resources that we do have. Now, that is the quick version. You have the more detailed document of 6 pages. And either myself, Tony, or Lee are here, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from board members? Ms.
Yes.
Mosby?
These positions, some of them will be, I guess, 6-digit salary positions.
Yes, ma'am.
Going into the future, how will, those salaries be sustained? Because, if we're going to bring these people on board, and as you know, we always go through a budget cycle in a sense, and if the money, is given to us a certain amount, and if we bring in 5 or 6 people at a 6-digit salary, what's going to happen to them 2 years from now? We're going to have to cut them? And another concern too, on top of that, is that we're looking to bring people into 6-digit salaries, but then we're talking about letting go some board employees who have vested interests in our school system, and I'm talking about Columbus and Jefferson particularly. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that I was not aware of the privatizing of Columbus and Jefferson. So as a board member, I was not aware of it. So I want that on record so everyone will know that. And I don't support that. I support making sure that the kids and family, parents, children have the individual who they feel comfortable with, because the majority of those 96 workers, they are Norwalk residents, they are taxpayers, they're voters, and they are board employees. And as I said before, they have a vested interest in keeping our children safe and ensuring that they stay safe. So we at least know that they will look after our kids. They are bonded with our children, the parents in the community. And the parents are familiar with their character and backgrounds of these individuals. And I know the reorganization, we need something like that, but then it kind of like sits funny with me that we want to sit here and, bring in people at 6-digit, salaries that we're not sure if it's going to sustain 2 years from now. And someone that's in the school system, working with our children, comfortable with our children, we want to sit there and get rid of them and bring in, I don't know, I'm not knocking who we're trying to bring in, but I'm just saying that we don't know, because one, I know I'm not speaking now as a board member, I'm speaking as a mother, in a sense. It takes just one tiny mistake, and I don't care to say, oh, well, then we'll correct it. You can't. If one child, and because I'm for all children, if one child is hurt, one child, you can never go back and sit there and say, we made a mistake. So I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah. I understand completely the point you're making. The departments where we've recommended adds, additional positions, is HR and special ed. We did so because of we actually think it'll help save a lot of money and save a lot of time and also be much more productive for us, especially in the area of special education. My fundamental belief was that they are understaffed, and if we do it right and we do well what I talked about, we could hopefully save millions down the road and not be sending it out to all these other districts for out-of-district placements. We were very fortunate in the course of, so I guess my hope would be that at the same time that I'm recommending the addition of positions, that as we prepare the budgets in the years to follow, this coming December and again in the following year, the intent is that in the long term it would save us funding, it would save us money, so we can manage on a year-to-year basis and not have to come back and cut huge areas of staffing. When you cut half of the elementary assistant principals 2 years ago, that was a big blow because schools had lost their coaches. They then had 6 assistant principals that had to be split between 12 schools. It made it a very inefficient kind of role. Fortunately, with foundation funding, which is, it's assuming we're successful first year, there's a 2-year commitment, and we have to meet certain requirements. You will at least have those positions for a couple of years, but the hope is that as we are able to demonstrate gains, which is what this is all about, improving student achievement, getting those young people to reach those reading scores by the end of grade 3, that's what this is all about. It's about improving instruction, improving learning, getting every child ready, and the recommendations that I made were sort of in keeping with that spirit. It's my best recommendation at this time.
Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Rivas?
Yes, you mentioned that the main goal is to getting every child on board and make sure we're doing the right thing for student achievement. My concern also is with the reorganization of the special ed department. If our data shows that only 3% of children with special education, there is only has 3% of being proficient, and this is in-district children that are under special education. And then we're thinking of bringing out-of-district children in district. My concern is, how is that going to be with your reorganization? How is that going to address that? Because if in district only 3% are proficient, I don't see how with this type of with what you have in mind for special ed, how is that going to address the problem that we have, making sure that every student achieves? How are you going to monitor that? And when you would bring, because of what you're doing, your reorganization, bringing in the out-of-district children, then how long will it take to realize, in case it is not, what would you put in place to make sure that if we cannot do the in-district children to be more proficient, higher percentage, then how could we possibly handle the out-of-district children? And what would you use to monitor that? Yeah. With the reorganization and I don't want to wait, like if 6 months down the line it's not working, I don't want to do any more additional damage that has been done, because I know it is a question of we need to save money for the district as well, but not at the risk of endangering the achievement of our children with special needs.
Sure. One of the recommendations that you made when we adopted our goals, and we greatly appreciate it, is the fact that we should be tracking the percentage and growth of special education students that are actually meeting their IEP goals. And we included that, and the board adopted that as part of the goal. So the objective here is to have these special ed, the reason why we call them special ed instructional supervisors is because there's an expectation that they're going to be more out there in the field working and supporting principals and the curriculum and instruction site directors in the supervision and evaluation of teachers to help improve instruction. We've seen too many instances where students have not been, their IE have not been achieving their goals, their IEP goals and objectives. And that is a huge concern that's been expressed that we know we have to tackle. So the belief is that having these special ed instructional supervisors, they're going to be out in the field. That's the expectation. You've got to be working. You've got to be part of that infrastructure that's going to support instructional improvement. So if that's going on for all kids, we should be able to track it, because we also said that I think it was a couple of meetings ago when I shared assessments, we need to put in place the baseline data for that so we can have the system in place for tracking students meeting their IEPs. So you will know, because we'll have data and we'll be able to report back to the board on a periodic basis. On the out-of-district placements, there are certain disabilities for which, and I'm particularly familiar with one, where we could create our own center. For example, students who are hearing impaired. In a number of cases, we send children out for different placements out of district, Trumbull and elsewhere, when we could be establishing and creating our own center for children who are hearing impaired and serve them right here locally. That's the idea. The idea is to be able to serve students with particular disabilities in their hometown with the equal service. We looked at children who are autistic children, with the number of children with autism. And if you look at this, and we actually are under contract with an outside agency right now. And that outside agency actually hires behavioral specialists. I think they're called AB. They hire behavioral specialists. We pay a fortune to them to hire the AB specialists. We could be operating our own classes for children with autism, and we do the hiring of our AB specialists. There's a huge savings in setting up some of those classes as a start, where we can provide the same level of service and still meet their needs without paying double or triple the amount.
Mr. Rivas?
Yes, and also, you have addressed the issues, because the IEPs all have progress reports where they have meetings with the parents, and on them there have been many incidences where they say that the goal has been mastered when it hasn't. Is there something that one of these duties would be the responsibility of the person to make sure that goals that have been mastered are not really mastered, to make sure that the recording information is correct?
That's a really good point, and it's one that we actually wrestled with, how sometimes different standards are applied to setting different goals and how you track them. So we've got some work to do in that area, but it is definitely on our radar. That's something we need to track.
Okay. Mr. Chiramonte?
Mr. Rivera, I want to thank you very much for what you've done. Before you were here, I'm sure you know, we've had some horrendous budget seasons here, and it caused us to chop up our staff and gerrymander and put all other people's job descriptions at double what they usually do. I mean, Tony was one of them. I'm surprised he doesn't have an S underneath that shirt for what he's done in the past. We've put so much on him. We've done so much that throughout the whole system that way, where it just, after years of constantly swapping out and changing, things got lost. You gave a well-thought-out plan here, and I very much appreciate what you've done. You've gone out to other districts, you've seen what works and what doesn't work, especially with the children that we're sending out of district. That alone looks to save millions of dollars. So when you get concerns about six-figure salaries or the right people, as long as it's money well spent and you're finding ways of saving money and making this more efficient, that's exactly what this district needs. And I applaud this budget season that we had in the past. I never seen one go as smoothly before. So I applaud you for what you've done here, and I thank you, and I'm well in support of what you have here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Keys?
Dr. Rivera, I just have two questions I wanted to ask you. For the HR specialist, we're looking to possibly hire 3 full-time specialists, is that correct?
There are three, yes,
Yeah,
three
three
full-time specialists, that's right.
Can you tell me what their job responsibilities will be? I mean, in generic, I know we're going to talk more about it, but I just want to get more of an idea.
Sure. Ask Lee to come forward.
We actually do have draft descriptions, but the functions themselves are going to be professional level responsibilities that will be involved with things such as recruitment and selection, things such as processing employees, orientation, training of new employees, making sure that all of the employees that are onboarded by the district are given similar kinds of training and development within the context of the organization. And so these are professional level positions. They've been benchmarked. I had an opportunity to read the report. As you know, it's voluminous. It's 48 pages. And I think that the consultants speak to that. And I definitely agree with their recommendations, because I think in order for HR to be functioning at the appropriate level, that those responsibilities really do have to be subsumed into those functions. And the other thing that was intended is that we want to make sure that people are cross-trained, so that we're not just dealing with certified staff, we're dealing with non-certified staff, and if somebody's out, that we can have all of those areas covered, and making sure that, again, our internal staff is cross-trained so that we can meet that need.
Will we have 2 different HR personnel, one certified and one for non-certified employees? Or are they sharing responsibilities? How will that?
Currently, they're separate.
I know they're separate now,
Right,
but-
and we're going to take a look at, again, how that's divvied up based on the volume, based on, again, the number of employees in those respective areas, to make sure that there's a fair and equitable distribution of work also. And again, we really want to get them cross-trained so that they will be able to handle both certified and non-certified staff. And that way, again, we have that coverage on an ongoing basis, and we don't have any gaps.
Okay, specifically if someone's out too, so if you have one specialist that's out, the other one can kind of come in and jump in if it's separate or
Correct.
together? Okay.
Correct, so that there's backup.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
And one other question, if I can ask. Go ahead. I think it's great as far as the customer service. This is for Dr. Rivera.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Are we looking at hiring someone for the 3rd floor? So as soon as they walk in from the elevator, and that person will direct them to whichever office? And-
Yes, we're actually going to be following, we had that 2 or 3 times. But, you know, for families that come up, they get off on the 3rd floor and they wander around, they don't know where to go. There should be someone stationary there, a welcoming
person,
reception desk. It used to be in that little sliding metal thing that you walk in, there was a receptionist there, but that's a need that we have. Yes, we know that. And also, even as we look at the superintendent's area and some of the overload there, we're going to look at potentially reshuffling the use of some of our clerical staff.
And this point person, if he or she isn't busy, you'll be able to cross-train, hopefully, this person. So if they're directing people to different areas and then have a slow period, they'll be able to help out in other areas? I would assume.
We'll have to pay attention to all that detail. I mean,
It's like the
even
small detail
all
that I think-
phone calls that come in from the main switchboard all go to Pat. They go to Pat. She gets stuff from me daily. You know, every 10 minutes you get. And so we've got to figure out a better system.
More efficient.
Yeah, much more. That's the idea here: efficiency, customer service, and being more responsive to people.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Mr. Barbas?
I just want to mention, I can't tell you how much I think we need this, and how many, an example I just want to share is, you know, some of our teachers have been just not gotten the support that they needed from human resources. And especially, I know a number of teachers that were on maternity leave and were berated and kind of abused in HR. And, you know, come on, these are teachers that work for us. A lot's going on in their lives. They're trying to manage their responsibilities as a teacher, get ready to go on maternity leave. We should be supportive, not making their lives more difficult, not returning their phone calls, not giving them information on insurance. It's unacceptable. And it looks like from your plan, that would not happen again. That's all.
Sure. Thank you.
Ms. Rivas?
So the customer service, the front person that would be in the front when you get off of the elevator on the third floor. So is the requirement multilingual or bilingual?
That would be ideal.
Trilingual?
We've talked about that, having someone who is in fact multilingual in that area.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Kasimis? Dr. Rivera, thank you for what you've put together here. I was actually elated with the first reorg you gave us a couple of months ago, because I think I told you, and we had met a while back, that the first thing that I did when I came on the board three years ago with Susan Marks is sit down and go over the organization chart and kind of tell her that we need to reorganize the old central office because it just didn't flow right. But I like what I see, especially like what I see with the special ed department, because I know none of us are going to forget the CREC report.
Right.
So I'm really pleased to see that. I do have a question, though. I noticed that there's a couple of title changes for some employees that are already in those positions.
Right.
And now with those title changes, does an increase in salary come along with that?
Yes, one of the things that I'll be recommending to you at the next meeting would be what those actual contracts would be, as well as actual salary adjustments.
Follow up? Yes. So if we approve the reorganization plan and have a problem with the salary, what's that going to do to your plan?
Well, I think obviously the elements that we are able to advance, which are moving forward with HR, special ed. Obviously, there's the a requirement from a foundation for a position. There's certain ones we would definitely want to move, but in terms of any new or revised contracts for people currently in their roles, those will come to the board in another week and a half on Friday, June 27th. And board, we can discuss them and hopefully take action on July 1st.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Murray?
Then I would like to see that we amend this reorg so that we see the figures, the dollar figure and the contracts before going forward, because the experiences that I've had is that if we go ahead and put this in place, there was going to be some difficult times in conversation and trying to adjust based on salaries. So I think it should be a lot clearer, cleaner if we look at this in 2 steps or 2 phases based on that. I also have the pie is not getting any larger. And, you only have so much that we can spend. But I do have concern that we have taken quite a bit from the schools and just haven't a balance in replacing and restoring. And here we're looking at new positions, some other things that I think that could be, if we were more creative. I think we're going from one extreme to the other. This board was mandated to cut because it was top-heavy. And now you see what you've walked into, Dr. Rivera, is the remains. So you're trying to rebuild, reestablish. Special ed is definitely one of them. We know what happens with the cost on that side of the, in the finance area. So anything that can be creative is more than welcome to make that happen. Adding new positions, certain things like that I have reservations on. And I certainly know that, not to frustrate you, but you would like to have some of your own staff here. That's a known thing when you have someone new coming in, superintendent level, any executive that bring in individuals. So that's something that I also recognize. We also are running a business here, and I've heard too many board members and people say, this is a business and it needs to be run like one. And that has not been happening. So given that piece of it, that I agree with and I applaud, but I just feel that some of this should be given back into the schools, restored, while we should be allowing you to be able to reorganize and rebuild the third floor. Maybe not to the comfort that you would like to see right at this moment in time, but at least start moving toward that.
Sure. I appreciate that. I think the total position add was 4.8. The additional special ed is, if you look at the number of positions, HR would be 1.8 positions. But I think it's important also to note that when we looked at revamping special ed, the idea was that those 4 special ed instructional supervisors, they're supposed to be spending more time out in the field. That's what the principals wanted. They want more people in there helping them with their teachers. So it's pushing, even though it might be housed in a central office, the idea is to push those services out into the school. HR is the one area that was really weak. That was the one department that's really stretched. And then I'm just thinking of, improved customer service. The other big piece is the foundation piece. The restoration of a full-time curriculum and instruction site director in all of our elementary schools is big. And in addition to that, there was additional money that I didn't anticipate to help us fund 2 additional coaches. So there's going to be even more resources going out into the schools. And but we'll be happy to provide the specifics in terms of the enhancements of positions. I would have loved to have had a separate executive assistant and a communications director. I said, no, we can't afford it. So I took one and said, okay, you ready to go 80 hours a week now? And it's the same with on the business side, on the operations side. But we'll pull that information together for you in the second phase and have it ready for July 1.
Any other discussion, comments, motions? Yes, Ms. Mosby.
So where are we at? We had the discussion of, and because we're asking for additional information, the salary and so forth, does that still fall under, because you guys just put in for a possible action?
There's a motion on the floor to adopt the plan.
Right.
You could make a motion to table, you could make a motion to amend.
I will make a motion to table it until we get the further information so that we can, so that we know exactly what the numbers are.
Okay. Motion to table is not debatable. We will proceed to a vote. All in favor of tabling, please indicate. 3. All opposed to tabling, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4. Abstentions? 1 abstention, motion fails. So the main motion is still on the agenda. Just to adopt the plan. Have a question?
Motion to amend?
Yes, you can make a motion. Yeah, before you get to your motion, he's got a question.
Question.
Then we'll go to you.
Dr. Rivera, in the bottom of your executive summary, you say that they are all within board-approved budget parameters.
Yes.
So that includes the new salaries?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, everything. What we did was,
that's what I want to
remember the board approved a
Yes.
certain amount for HR. Then they approved an amount for special ed. Then we took the position of Elio, and that came out to about $980,000. So as we looked at what we could do within that amount, the the addition of 4.8 positions actually leaves a balance of like $574. But it is within, the idea of doing this was to do it within the budget. And I thought, and so that's the commitment that we obviously have. We're not going to spend beyond our budget. And in terms of some of the specific salary increases that would be reflected in the contracts, those contracts are ones that you would vote on in a couple of weeks. But the recommendations are all within the budget.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Mr. Barbas?
I guess maybe as part of that, are most of these positions be, NASA or in kind of a contractual position so that the salary is kind of set by the contract?
Yeah, I think in special ed, yes, all 4 of them would be. Similarly, there's the K-5 instructional specialist was already in the budget, so I'm not going to reference that one. The HR specialist ones, I believe, those would be ESG positions. The part-time labor relations would be ESG. The chief academic officer and director of school operations would be positions that would also be exempt level positions.
So most of the stuff, what they're going to get paid is contractually set.
That's right.
So if we want to hire them, we're going to have to, we don't really have a choice. It's not like it's a debatable number.
Right.
Except for maybe these 2 exempt positions.
The exempt positions, yes, where we
there, it's a competitive market, so to get someone good, there's a certain amount you're going to have to pay them.
Right.
So in a sense, there's not that much from a salary perspective for these positions, if we want to proceed, it's not that debatable what they're going to get paid.
Right. No, exactly right.
Okay.
One more question. Sorry. Is there any consequences of us not approving it tonight, waiting till July, till the next meeting?
It would definitely delay postings. I wouldn't post anything.
Well, you want this in place for the next school year.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. It would delay posting and just delay hiring by a few weeks. And my desire, I have this. I'm on a path. I've got 2 full days with all of my administrators next week. Now we've got a planned agenda that's going to get into culture. It's going to get into organization. Who's got what? They've been raising issues about, you need clarity with what the organization, what are the committees, who's in charge of what. I wanted to be able to go through all that before the year ended. I'm likely to go through it, but put an asterisk, pending board approval if that's the case. If it has to be delayed, it's delayed.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Chairman?
By delaying the postings, would you say we're always on a better crop of people since it's the summertime?
It's late now, so it may not make that big of a difference. It's late in the year. Ideally, I would have loved to have had some of this done a month ago, and really have people in place July 1. But we weren't ready and didn't achieve that. So better late than never.
Anything else, Ms. Mosby?
Yep. I have some concerns about, not about this in general, but this entire process, that items like this, of this huge magnitude, that affects, the public, in a sense, taxpayers, all of us, is put under something as information and reports, and then pushed quickly to possible action without even involving the public, without giving them an opportunity to hear what's going on, to digest what's going on. And it's pushed through without salaries and all that stuff. I mean, I have a deep problem with that. And I understand if this was something there, if all of us were inclusive with all the board members and we had a discussion and we were, on top of this. But this is just coming down at the 11th hour. We get this packet on Friday, in a sense, although there was discussion, but I mean, breakdown here on the details on Friday, and now today comes and you mislead people with discussion of, then you put that possible action in. So that doesn't give you an opportunity for the community, in a sense, to see, you know, and hear and what's going on, because now we're being told that as far as the salary that it just got voted down, that we're not going to go with that and wait for a salary to be disclosed. And that was one of the issues I had prior to one of the two appointments that we picked. Well, that was picked, that their salary wasn't disclosed up front. So I'm just saying that I have concerns about how this process is going. That's it, period.
Sure. If I could just say, I think from the beginning, the expectation was that at the second meeting, that specific employee contracts would be coming to the board with that salary information. So that was sort of the second step to this. And so that was the expectation, that would in fact occur. And it would be a two-step process for some of the employees that tonight I wanted to share, here's what the changes would be in their roles and their responsibilities, and it would be at the next meeting that we would look to, hopefully, I would be recommending, contract adjustments, and that would be the time when the board could vote.
And that goes back to where some board members have more information than the others, and because of that, it hinders the entire process.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Sorry.
One more question, and I may repeat myself on this one, but again, the $980,000, whatever it was, that you said we approved for all these positions already in the budget, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then you go on to the $1.1 million of foundation, that's an additional money?
Yes, that's funding for the curriculum instruction
Yes,
site
the
directors.
research and all that.
That's funding for the coaches,
Okay.
$130,000 coaches, and for the director of research and accountability.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I certainly strongly support this proposal. This board has approved, I can think of a dozen examples where we've had discussion of impossible action under information and reports, and we've approved things without any objection from board members. In fact, we just did it with the Whitson's contract a few minutes ago. So this is perfectly adequate notice of what's coming. Secondly, we've been talking about this reorganization since the time we had a board retreat and talked about it. It's been in the strategic plan. It's been presented on multiple occasions to the board by Dr. Rivera in writing and in presentations, and it's in our budget. All of these changes are right in the budget that this board approved. All we're doing is going through a systematic and to be very logical and intelligent process of taking general guidances in the budget, turning them into more explicit approvals of organizational changes, and then you may get down to the nitty-gritty of, fine contract approvals. And I think the way Dr. Rivera's been doing this is consistent with all the other changes that we've made. I actually like this process of starting with a high-level set of goals, budget objectives, then getting into a detailed explanation of the organizational changes, why they're happening, what they're designed to do, and then you get down into the nitty-gritty approvals of things like contracts. All of the spending in this proposal is already in the budget that the board approved. The salaries for most of these positions are determined by union contracts, and we wouldn't have any say over them anyway. And this is, I think, an excellent effort on the superintendent's part to rebuild what I think Ms. Murray adequately described as what was a pretty decimated central office staff. And what we found, when you look at all the reports that have been done in recent years analyzing the school system, the CREC reports, the Cambridge report, the GE report when we were looking at Common Core, they all talked about a very weak central office, fiefdoms at the different school systems, everybody doing their own thing, no uniform financial operations, no uniform curricular operations, and we lose a lot because of that. And this is a continuation of the process of rebuilding a damaged system, and I think making it better than it was even before. And I also appreciate the fact that a lot of these central office positions are fundamentally oriented in a different direction. These positions are not simply paper pushers at headquarters. A lot of these people are going to be expected to leave the building, go out to the schools, help people make special ed work better, provide better service to the people who work for the school system, as well as improving what we're providing to our children in curriculum and all the other aspects of what we do. So I think this is a terrific plan, and I certainly hope the board will approve it. Ms. Rivas.
Yes, I don't think anyone, and well, I don't know, I'm speaking for myself, I don't want to speak for anyone else. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rose.
No, go ahead.
No, I couldn't see, it was on the side, so.
Well, you can speak, and then Rosa, and then...
No, because I know I spoke earlier and I wanted to amend something, and then I was completely disregarded, and then you didn't come back to me at all and started answering other knowledgeable people. No, when I interrupted before, when I said I was making an amendment I wanted to make an amendment to that, then you said okay, and then we weren't doing that. But okay, under information and reports, everything that we have to deal with is different. You can't take the same thing. Okay, so under information and reports, we did the Winston, we did whatever. So basically the same thing. No one's contradicting that we don't need this. This is a good plan. Yeah, okay. The thing is, what I'm asking for too is transparency. You have to be able to say, okay, so you have to be able to define clearly what each salary position is. When you post something, you have to have a salary. When you post any job, you put a salary on the posting. It's not like there's no knowledge as to, even if it's contract related, you more or less can have an idea what the salary would be. Basically, I believe it should have been tabled or maybe amended or something to show or to change it, what each position, what the salary is, because the public does need to know the salary. I don't want to feel that we approve something and say, okay, we approved all those 5 people, then whatever the salary it is, then it's just like fill in the blank and it's done. And I understand that we have this extra money or whatever money was put aside to it, $980,000 in the budget. But what someone mentioned earlier was that a lot of our schools, because we were devastated with a lot of cuts in our budgets in the past and everything, I think some of this should be put back into the schools as well. I know we have to have a strong central office in order to actually do what our vision is and get everything right on track, which this is an excellent job with this, but just a question of answering, what is each posting going to read then? What is the salary base or the salary range? I would have appreciated if it had a salary range, or when Dr. Rivera did the presentation, he could have said, well, the salary range would be between this amount and this amount. It's just like not knowing exactly how much we're going to spend. Earlier we had, I think it was last year, where we couldn't provide an elementary school with a teacher, and it would impact student learning because the class we had oversized. There were too many children in some classrooms, and how did we address that? What was done to remedy that? Did anyone go back and see what the present condition of that classroom was? So we didn't provide the school with the teacher, so it was over 26, 27, I think 28 children in one classroom. Was that teacher put back? There are things that were impacted by on a middle school level, I think, as well. And so, it would be good to know what exactly is this going to cost. I know we have extra monies, but what is the cost of each, it would be good to know. And I think the public should know and the community should know And when we did have a posting, when we were considering hiring a director of finance, there was a lot of input where people came and during public comments and were able to speak on the issue. And at that time, because of the input from the public, we decided that we would not go with a finance director at that time. But, input is needed. And, when I question, I don't know about other board members, when I do question and I have a concern, I understand because it's said clearly what the reason is for doing it. And obviously with the correct report, with what you said, we all know this, but we never really addressed what the problems are in the district. And now we're addressing it. Everyone wants that to happen because we want a better school district. But what's wrong with saying before you vote on something, you need to see something, this is going to cost you $30,000 or this is going to cost you, because maybe there are other things that we might want to do with the excess money.
Ms. Murray?
Yes, my input was that ranges could have been provided and connected to this, to the document, with the contract in place. So I'm sure we could have had ranges, and that would have been easily lifted and put in part of the presentation. And the other was that I'm not convinced that increasing the head count always will increase to productivity, accountability for the third floor. I believe there's some other things that need to be put in place on that. So I'm not connecting the fact that central office, third floor would be better off because of the increase in the head count. We do need additional staff, no doubt about it, because as I said, this board was mandated budget after budget to cut because we were top heavy. That has been done, and now we're getting ready to rebuild. So to the superintendent, the increase in staff is needed, but the accountability piece is also, it's not just a matter of having more bodies on the third floor. But also, as I said, the ranges would have been something that would have put enough teeth into the document, into the presentation for my own concern. But as I said, we also will leave it at that point, okay?
Ms. Mosby?
I'm the first one. I'm a very strong advocate for special ed, and I've always been for that. And I support, special ed in a lot of the endeavors. But as a board member, I and we have a fiscal responsibility. And before we start making decisions, we need to have all the facts. And this needing a salary to go with it, or a range of salary, is something that would help so that we could make decision, because basically we're supposed to make sure that we are responsible for being informed about schools and education programs. So that's part of our bylaws. We need to be informed, and to go and make decisions without having all the facts, meaning that we're not informed, and it should be out there. And yes, I agree with Ms. Rivas that maybe we and Ms. Murray, that maybe some of the dollars could be put into the schools instead of just in one area, or building us back up to be top heavy. I had a couple parents at schools come to me because their child needed a little extra help, and they didn't fall into that category of getting some kind of tutor because they didn't meet that criteria. If we could sit there and have a little extra, cash to go there and put into schools to have tutors come in to help the child. The child was on the borderline, so he didn't go one way or the other, and she couldn't get that type of tutor. And they said, sorry, we can't help you, so that means she had to go outside. I mean, those type of services to give to, parents where a child is struggling in one area and needs help. So, I mean, things like that we could be creative with things like that and see how we can put the money to both. I understand we need to, especially special ed. I understand about that area, and but we need to sit there and think about other areas in the schools as well, where parents are coming out now saying they need help immediately with these items. And again, because we're board members, we're supposed to be fiscally responsible. We need to have all the facts, and having salaries on this is basically the fact.
Any other comments? Okay, if none, we'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of adopting the resolution, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 3. Motion carries 5-3. All right, we'll move on now to committee and representative reports. We'll start with Ms. Murray. Anything to report on finance?
No, I know we're having a next finance committee meeting on June 25th. I'd like to ask the committee members to submit agenda items. That would be something that we will have to get to Pat Rivera, because many times she's kind of on the 11th hour. So any items for the agenda of the finance committee, we need that submitted to Pat as soon as possible.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, thank you. Ms. Murray. Mr. Kasimis, any reports?
Absolutely. On the athletics side, as you know, we instituted driver's ed 2 years ago, and our contract will be up again in August. We'll have to renew. I just want to give some numbers of the statistics on the driver's ed. I have he emailed me the other day. At Brian McMahon, we've had 38 students this year go through our driver's ed program, 51 at Norwalk High. Last year, there were less than half those numbers. And again, we also get $50 for every student that enrolls in the program. In addition to that, this company, All Star Driver, has also sponsored a variety of groups, including theater, the school newspaper, and I asked them for the list, because they do a lot more than just the athletic side, because I think that was something that was out there. A couple of board members were concerned that we're just supporting the athletics with this. They also have helped fund the Norwalk High post-grad party, the Norwalk High yearbook, musical ads, newspaper, outdoor sports banners, PTOs, and the band. So that's really how they really get involved with the school, not just athletics. So they've been a real asset to our school system, and we're looking hopefully to renew the contract again in August.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, can I ask?
Yeah.
So on the committee, so then the money that is made, the $50 that goes to our portion, this is what is being used for?
No, the initial $50 for every student that is enrolled goes right to our athletics program for either Norwalk High and Brian McMahon, depending on where they enroll. In addition to that, this company, All Star Driver, reinvests their own money into different portions of our programs, like theater, like the band, PTO, and things like that.
So
this is out of their pocket.
Yeah. So what do they do with the money that's collected at each school?
Well, they get paid for a service provided. They're drivers at school.
No, I mean the no public schools piece. You said that we make $50 on each
Per kid, correct.
For a child. So
Yes.
what is the total amount for each?
If we take the numbers, you just multiply by 50.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'll give you those numbers. So if we take 38 for Brian McMahon, 38 times 50. So whatever that is, about $1,500, $1,600.
So
that goes back to Brian McMahon Athletics. For Norwalk High, it's $51. 51 students times 50 got about $2,550.
Okay, so that's used for equipment.
Yeah, equipment. Yeah, it costs us about $5,000 to clean all the football uniforms at the end of the season. So it's something that really helps us out. Even though it's a little portion, it still helps us out. But part of the deal, what they do is they also reinvest in our schools. It has nothing to do with how many kids are enrolled.
Okay.
And I just went through a list of things that they do for us as well.
Yeah, you heard that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Ms. Keys, policy?
We're good. We discussed policy 9130 tonight and approved that. And our next meeting will be this coming Tuesday.
Okay.
Evening.
All right, negotiations?
In negotiations, the two unions that we are in negotiations with currently are NFEP and the food service workers. I think we kind of had a lot of momentum with NFEP, and I think now we're kind of regrouping. I did speak to Bob Deluski last week about kind of when are we going to have a meeting again and proceed, and I have not heard back from him, so I imagine I'll be hearing from him shortly. On food service workers, we were supposed to have a meeting with them last week, and last Thursday, and they unexpectedly canceled. wasn't clear what the issue was, but we were unable to make it. We do have a meeting with them on the 26th of June, is the next scheduled, what was previously scheduled.
Okay.
So we didn't reschedule last Thursdays.
And then the teachers and
What time?
administrators start Thursday, right?
That's correct, on the 19th. The window opens. On the food service workers, Migdalia, it's at 11 o'clock
The 26th?
on the 26th, and I do not have a room number as of yet.
Okay, so the next meeting is the 26th?
Mm-hmm.
On anything with negotiations? Okay.
Food service workers, yes. And as I said, there's nothing on the agenda yet for, meeting-wise for the NFEP. And then because of the way state law is set up, we need to start a dialogue with the NFT, the Teachers Union, and NASA, the Administrators Union, starting on June 19th. And there have been some discussions, I think, with Bob Deluski and them, but no meetings have yet been scheduled.
So the 19th, you're just having,
It's just that's the date, you work backwards, and that's the date from when everything needs to begin, under state law.
okay, so Bob DeLucy will contact you on the 19th?
Or maybe potentially sooner. I mean, it is the 17th, but, I think, I'm scheduled to talk to him tomorrow.
Yeah, I talked to Tom Looney, and he said you don't necessarily have to have a meeting on the 19th. You just have to, open up a dialogue, so that can be as simple as our lawyer talking to their lawyer. And then what they'll do is they'll set up a date that negotiations can meet with the unions for the initial meeting, which is usually just, adoption of procedures. We adopt the rules for conducting the negotiation, and then there'll probably be a couple of weeks to put together concrete proposals, and then you start the actual formal negotiating meetings.
Okay, so we're not, so the negotiation committee is not involved in the dialogue that you're talking about, correct?
Not initially.
The preliminary stuff is usually done by the lawyers, and then when they've got some of the preliminary agreements with the unions, they'll come to the full committee, and the committee will then jointly schedule meetings, and then the committee will conduct the meetings.
Okay.
Okay.
And because I'm on the committee as well, I want to be, yes.
I have a question for Mr. Barbas. On the schools to outsource custodial jobs, staff quoted what the board, I guess we've had some discussions and what we're going to do. Can you speak to this? Or do you want the staff to speak to this?
Probably it's better that staff does. We had those meetings, I don't know what that was, before they came to the board. If you recall, they came to a board meeting, the custodian union. There was one meeting with Bob Deluski and myself, and Mr. Suler and a few of their members, but then they subsequently came to the board. So I have not been in any discussions with them since they came to the board, to the whole board, whatever that was, 2 months ago. This has all been between staff, not this committee.
Okay, all right, then we talk to staff or somebody else to clarify our position on this article?
I have no idea what's in the, I did not read the article.
Oh, you did?
No. But, Rich, did you read?
It's quoting him, so that's why I thought maybe.
And someone tell me what this article you're talking about says, or what are you saying from the paper?
It's an article that's quoting that board, I guess, the board is aware of privatizing Columbus and Jefferson. And basically, I wasn't aware of it, so. But, yeah, Rich, if you could.
Yeah, I mean, you have your name, unless it wasn't you who spoke
right, you're
to
the
the
one
press.
that said it, so we want to know basically how to get out that we.
Sure. I mean, earlier in the year, Stanley Schuler did address the board, and the discussion of contracting out was discussed before the board, along with the custodian union. In the custodian contract clause 9.15, it does allow the Board of Education and the Newark Public Schools to contract out any custodial services, providing that no employee is laid off, and it can be proven that it is more cost effective. So the actual RFP has not gone out yet, but we have received quotes. For those two schools alone, it would be close to $160,000 less than what we currently spend. If the entire school district were to be outsourced, which we can't do because we cannot lay any employee off, it would be close to $2 million in savings. I know you had made a comment earlier about how do we know about the type of people that are in our schools. It would be very similar to what bus drivers are. Bus drivers are not employees of Nora Public Schools, but they do have to be screened, they do have to be drug tested, they do have to be fingerprinted, and they are around our children. And then within the RFP that goes out, the same criteria would be applied to those individuals as well.
Let me finish. The statement that was made, was that premature? Do you feel that the board, because the board did not actually vote on this, that was a little premature to?
The board was aware of being able to contract out.
We do, yeah, we are aware. But
We were aware of that, yes.
Aware, but to make a statement like this, and that's where I think it puts us in a position in the communities, because that's where we live, okay, that something has already been established, voted on, the board made a decision, and which was not true. So now
Well, wait,
we're out.
let me correct that. The board did vote to approve the contract that includes the privatization language. And once that language was approved in a contract approved by the board, the staff is entitled to carry it out, which is what they're doing.
No, Mr. Lyons, no, Mr. Lyons.
Yes,
No,
Ms.
no.
Murray, that's exactly what the law is, as we've been advised by Attorney Mooney, who sat right here and told us that.
And maybe he told you, maybe.
He told all of us in that executive session.
No.
Mr. Chairmonti, did you actually read the article?
I have not read the article. I did speak with the individual from the
My personal
hour.
experience, you need to read whatever the hour writes, because they will manipulate at times what you say. So maybe you should read it before you answer it. So you know what they're talking about.
Right, exactly, because that's exactly where it leads us.
Ms. Mosby.
Rich, referring back to bus drivers basically are with their children for a few hours. We're talking about people that are going to be in our schools for, more than 3 hours. So there is a slight difference in a sense, because, and plus bus drivers don't have that one-on-one interaction that someone in a school who physically can walk down and touch our children or something. So that's a big difference between bus drivers and actual people that are in the schools that's supposed to be looking after our children and their safety. And I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
And Mr. Rudel, is there any difference at all between the background checks that would be done by these contractors and the background checks we do on full-time
None whatsoever.
custodians?
None
No, I
whatsoever.
didn't think so. Thank you.
How do you know that? Who are you? How do you know that? We haven't picked them yet, so no.
He's going to run the process.
But
He just said the RFP is going to include our right to do all those background checks.
Basically, like I said before, I'm a mother. I feel very strongly about this, especially with children. I'm a strong advocate for children and their safety. We keep going on about education, doing all this, saving money and so forth. And I understand, but safety is number one priority as well. If your child's not safe, how can you educate them? And in a sense, if you just want to sit there and take a chance, just a slight chance.
Don't we take a chance every time we hire a janitor?
No, not really, because a lot of the people in the system have been there a while. And plus there's positions, guys are floaters that's been there a while that could move into certain positions. But then again, through whatever, we decide not to post those positions. So that way it makes the custodial looks like their overtime is sky high, and that's not the case because, oh no, their salaries are sky high. And that's not the case because of the simple fact that they're picking up overtime hours because of positions that should have been posted and filled, and it's not being filled. And so that makes it looks like custodians are getting more money or over money, and it's not true. The fact is that we need to look at what's in the school system. Parents are comfortable with who's there. Children are comfortable with who's there. Plus, these people are taxpayers. These are people who basically money is going into our budget. These are people who are actually giving us money, and we're saying that they're not worthy in a sense. Their taxpayer money is coming here for the school budget, part of it. So, yeah, I do take offense in a sense to something like that, because you're saying that they're not worth it, because out of the majority of those individuals are from Norwalk. They're taxpayers. They're voters. Some of them probably voted to put some of you guys or us here, you know? And to sit here and just make it like, okay, it's fine, we can just go ahead. But my main concern at this point is simply the safety of these children. And I'm sorry, because one mistake, I don't care what it is, well, I've checked this, whatever, what if something happens? Because when you do an outside service, they're not vested in a sense, because I'm going to tell you why, because they're not from the school, they're not from being employed by us. People who are employed by the employer are more loyal to their employer.
Ms. Rivas?
Yes, I'd like to mention about the school bus drivers, the exams. I mean, the testing that they do, it is different from what you're referring to. Because commercial school bus drivers, they're tested randomly, drug tested. So you're saying that the employees that you will have will be randomly drug tested?
That is going to be in the RFP, yes.
That's going to be in the RFP?
Correct.
Randomly drug tested, so that's going to apply to everyone in the school district?
To the company that is selected and given the award.
Ms. Murray?
Jack, have you had your hand up? Was it to what they were saying?
It's okay, go ahead.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. You next, Jack.
I thought he had his hand up. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
Dr. Rivera, can we have just a better clearance or understanding? Because when I asked about this, you had no idea what was happening, what was being talked about here. For staff.
I didn't read the article, so
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So something like this, I mean, it's got to be, I know Brenda, communication, so there has to be something here, someplace here where we can get a better understanding of how these articles will go out, who's the spokesperson, okay, and the understandings that we have before it goes to press. I'm not sure how those checks and balances can happen, because I'm not in your internal workings, but just something like this. So that's what my concern is, and here's a copy for you to
Well,
read.
we do.
They said you said.
I mean, one of the things that Brenda does do is when there's inquiries, she'll run it by me, or in some cases, she'll go directly to the source. If I say, okay, go to Rich, or whomever the source was. So it happens, quite a bit. And so they're different, if I can issue a statement through her, I will. Sometimes I might call Corey directly, or depending on what the matter is. And then if we can get other information to him through, in this particular case, on this, Rich was the appropriate person at the time. Ralph has responded on P-TECH and on technology. Tony has responded on other sort of operational issues. So those are really the key people that we use.
Well, then we need to just make sure that we're accurate. Okay, here you go, Rich. There's a reoccurrence. All right, go ahead. Just don't keep going with this.
Okay. Jack, did you want to say?
I'm fine.
You're good. Okay. I think in terms of committee reports, it's over to you. Anything going on at the facilities?
They got back? No, nothing yet.
Okay.
Okay, I have a facilities question.
Go right ahead.
Yes, Mr. Facilities Person. There's been a problem at Kendall Elementary School. I don't know whether they've had a leaky roof or something for the past 8 years. It's been raining in 3 classrooms, kindergarten. I have been sent pictures. Parents have been calling me. There's the music room on the first floor, and the ESL classroom, and another kindergarten classroom. So it's a total of 3 classrooms, and it's been leaking for a very long time. They have buckets of yellow water inside the classroom. You could smell mold. It looks, I don't understand how something like this, is it possible for the facilities committee to see if you could find out what the story is and why hasn't it not been repaired, and what seems to be the problem with that situation?
Yeah, Commissioner Reed, I'll be happy to provide you with a detailed explanation. We've been working to address this for several months, and I'm not sure how far back it went, but the way that it's been explained to me, the
the roof, the company. There's a lot of detail behind it, but we'll be happy to get it to you, that information for you.
My concern.
And then the concern is getting it fixed.
No, my concern is that there happens to be 2 children that are asthmatic and that are in kindergarten. I don't think it's, maybe until this matter is resolved, I don't think we should expose our children to any health problems or air quality or mold or whatever the case may be. I don't care how long it takes to fix the roof, but I don't think that our children should be in a classroom where it has been leaking for such a very long time. And I think the parents are fed up with this already. And I've had, just too many complaints. I'm bumping into people in the supermarket and they're saying, my child is sick again. I took my child to the doctor. And if my child was in the kinder, I wouldn't send him to school, because you don't want to send your own child and sit in a classroom where it's under those kind of types of condition. So, if we can expedite this as soon as possible, I would appreciate that, and maybe facilities can also look into that as well as yourself, Dr. Rivera.
Okay, next is board member announcements. Any announcements? Mosby?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. One thing is a housekeeping item, and then an announcement. I'm trying to find out who's in charge of making sure that these board meetings are aired on that channel 78, the Education Access channel.
Rob?
Yeah.
Hi.
They're also being posted, we put the links up on YouTube as well. So
Right.
sometimes we are having a little bit of, sometimes the technical difficulty with getting it to run on a regular basis on 78 with the equipment.
That's where I'm going, because the last meeting, the June 3rd, no, it didn't run at all. And I had to sit here and requested a copy to make sure that there wasn't any kind of problems with it, and it's fine. So that's missing, so I would, I would appreciate if you could run it on there for a couple days, and then make sure that this meeting right here is definitely run, and all meetings in the future, because the reason I'm bringing it up today is because this is not the first time. A meeting of April the 8th never aired. For April 1st meeting aired for an entire month. And April 8th was kind of like fell through the crack. And then part of the March 18th meeting, part of it was cut off. So, I'm just, and my concern is that, Common Council are taped in this same room, and they don't seem to have a problem. So I just want to make sure that if there's someone that's, in charge of it, since I guess we decided that we want to start airing, this on TV for the public to see, then if that's the case, then we need to air everything. And so if, you could just get on top of that or stay on top of that, monitor it or something to make sure that the tapes are being aired.
I'll set up a regular schedule, so 3 days after the meeting, that'll be posted and so forth.
Right. Yes, because that's like three tapes so far within the last couple months, so, thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, you had...
My other announcement.
You had something else, right?
Yes. Yesterday, Briggs High School had a meet and greet at Briggs, and it was wonderful. It was great. It was a good show of parents and kids there. The principal, everything was really good. Rosa attended with me, board member Rosa Murray, and it was good. And they were extremely happy to see us, and they were just pleased that we were there, and that's something, I just wanted to share with everyone that, the two of us went there, and the parents and children were happy to see that, some board members did attend.
Okay. Ms. Rivas?
Yes, I just wanted to say with that channel 78, the educational acts, who updates that puts the date and the time of the next board meeting, or because it didn't have it had 7:45 or it didn't have the correct time for today. Was that overlooked or whatever? Because I received a phone call saying that they arrived at 7:30 and there was no one here for the Board of Ed meeting, and they thought it was canceled and left.
Yeah,
Because a lot of
it is. It's posted when you post the prior board meeting. So chances are at that time it was set up at 7:45. Probably was just overlooked. It that needs to be changed as well, that last slide.
Okay, also, can we also look into to see if it could be like closed captioning, or can they switch the language? Is there a way to put the closed, is that on the individual television where it would actually translate what's going on, or how would that work when,
Yeah, we don't have closed captioning ability here, but I can talk to the city. I mean, the question would be, it's in a sense a module that would have to be added. That there's technology that would have to be added and enhanced to the existing equipment that we have.
Is it
But I'll look into it.
Yes, I mean, there's some kind of course that would be good as far as the communication piece to the community, because of many watch but don't understand what's being said. So, that would be good if, that maybe the individual TVs, I don't know, also could be a factor, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Kasimis?
Last week, we attended the adult education graduation, and the ladies on my left here were there, all attended, and Ms. Heidi Keys as well, and Dr. Rivera. It was there was one specific graduate who had a very moving testimony. We really enjoyed it. It was a great time. So, also tonight was the middle school graduations, of course. I think a lot of us attended. And this Thursday night, 4 of us have graduates at Norwalk High School.
Yeah. Big day.
Yeah, so it's a big day for us.
Okay. Ms. Keys?
I want to keep talking about this. I know we spoke about Channel 78, and I want to thank Shirley for bringing that up, because I kept watching. I'm thinking, when is the Board of Ed coming on? It's just not coming on, and Common Council's coming on, the Board of Ed. So I think it's great if we have it back on a regular basis, because I know a lot of parents have spoken to me about it. They rely on watching it. They actually enjoy watching it, so I think it's important just to make sure that we get that done on a regular basis. I want to congratulate all of our elementary schools graduating. Middle schools tonight, we discussed our middle school graduates, which is great. And then high school, we have, I think, Briggs tomorrow night, Thursday night, Newark High School, Friday night, Brian McMahon.
Yep.
Is that correct?
It's a schedule.
So I think that's fabulous that we have all the schools moving on, all the kids moving on, graduating, and all that good stuff. That's it.
Mike?
I just want, on the Rowayton School construction project, now that the school year is almost over, they are going to get underway. In fact, tomorrow, they're going to start closing, they're going to start fencing off whole parts of the campus and some of the access ways the parents are used to. So, Brenda, you might, I don't know, end up getting some phone calls on this. I mean, obviously, it's being handled on the city side, but, and school's effectively over. But nevertheless, there'll probably be some people, whatever, complaining or saying something. But I think the PTA and the schools tried to, make everyone realize this project is coming, but it is truly underway at this point.
Good. Jack?
This past Monday, I was at the marching band banquet with Heidi and Superintendent Rivera, and it was the final of the year for the kids. And I can't tell you how proud I am of all of them. Mr. Rivera has done something for our kids that is far more valuable than anything I can think of. He's teaching them basically how much hard work, how it pays off. And I think all those kids that are in that room were just high achievers. To hear them coming up and hear the schools that they were going to and what they were going to learn and what they were going to take, I was just so proud of them. My son's one of them.
You're entitled. You're entitled.
But I got to tell you, I'm just so proud of that organization, and I don't think it gets enough accolades of what they do besides win championships.
Great performances.
On the mountain.
All right, thanks, Jack. Okay, so we'll move on to item 8, approval of minutes for June 3, 2014. Chair would entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Kasimis moves, Ms. Keys seconds. Any changes, corrections? Mr. Kasimis.
Page 9 of 9, the last motion there, it says Ms. Keys' second motion. Motion passed with 5 votes in favor, 1 opposed. Mosby, that was actually me who opposed it.
Yeah, okay. So we'll correct that. Any other changes, corrections? Ms. Mosby?
Can they check out on that same motion, the abstention. I'm not sure. Jarrell was the one that abstained.
I think she
Page
did.
are we on?
Page 9.
Last page. I thought she did.
I can go back and check the tape
Yeah.
myself as well. That was just something, and then on page 4 of 9, where it says approval of personnel, it says Ms. Mosby stated that the salary was not included with the board approval, but I stated, and you can check the tape as well, that the salary of the director of facility and the director of special ed was not included. So I just want to make sure that those wordings are there, because I didn't say anything about the SACI. I was commenting on the salary of the director of facility and the director of special ed, and that's where Mr. Diluski said that he would send us an email with the actual salary, because I said that we need to have a salary.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Anything else? All right, hearing none, with those changes, all in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed. None, abstentions? 2. And abstention? Okay. Motion carries. All right, Chair would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss the performance of the superintendent, possible action on evaluation as outlined in the packet. So moved by Mr. Kasimis, second by Mr. Chiramonte. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're in executive session, 10-minute recess. Oh, where's the agenda? There it is. Okay. So, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the evaluation of Superintendent Manuel Rivera by the Norwalk Board of Education dated June 17, 2014, as it was distributed to the board members. Is there such a motion? Mr. Kasimis moves. Is there a second? Mr. Chiramonte seconds. Is there discussion? Ms. Mosby.
Based on the discussion that we had in executive session, I just want to let everyone know that personally, I don't have anything against Dr. Rivera. I think he's great and everything, but some of the language and wording and the percentage that you want to give, I'm not going to vote against it, but I'm not going to vote for it. So I just want to put it out there now. I'm going to abstain from the vote.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. And note that we have to have a separate vote on the raise. Okay. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor of adopting the evaluation as written, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed.
Oops.
I'm sorry, 6. My apologies. All opposed? Abstentions. It's mostly abstains. Okay. Chair would entertain a motion to provide a 3% pay raise to Dr. Rivera for the July 1, 2014 to June 30, 2015 school year. Is there such a motion? Mr. Barbas moves. Mr. Chiramonte seconds. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. I'm sorry. Ms. Mosby.
Again, stating what I said before in regards to what was said in executive session, I'm not going to vote against it or for it, and I'm going to abstain with that 3%
Okay.
raise.
Duly noted. Any other discussion? Mr. Chiramonte.
Let's make it on the record that I've never seen any superintendent work as hard as Mr. Rivera has. And
I can't hear you.
I said I'd like to make it on the record that I have never seen any superintendent here work as hard as this superintendent has. And normally, as we've been very tight budget in the past, this is, I think, money well spent.
Okay. Any other comments? Ms. Murray.
I'm feeling that just for the discussion of the board, that the fact of that looking for improvements is a criteria in this vote this evening for the superintendent. So looking for improvements is what I am, my vote will be for. And that's in connection with the community. and board members. Okay?
And I should point out that Dr. Rivera is, again pursuant to his contract, in the process of putting together a set of goals and objectives that would be pursuant to his contract, and that he's going to, when he completes that, he's going to distribute it to the board. There's actually two processes in the contract relating to goals. One is a goal-setting process that we're supposed to complete for the superintendent by August. The other is the permissive section of the contract that allows us to set a bonus structure for the superintendent if he hits objectives. We're required to set goals. Whether we want to set a bonus to connect to the goals is discretionary. We can do it or not, depending on how we feel.
Is that part of the vote tonight?
No. Anything that related to that would be based on the set of goals which he is going to send us, but we don't have yet.
So we can't vote.
Okay? That would require a separate vote. All right. If there's no other discussion, we'll proceed to a vote on the approval of a 3% raise. All in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed and abstentions? 1 abstention. Okay. And that does it. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Ms. Kazamis?
Sure.
Moves to adjourn. Ms. Keys, all in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
Aye, aye, aye.
Okay.
Self-portrait.